All right, let's just jump right in. We're always talking about energy, right? But what if the real secret to unlocking your vitality, that sharp focus, that inner fire? What if it wasn't about more coffee or another hour of sleep? What if it's about learning a secret language, the language of your own cells?
I mean, just think about that for a second. This is a pretty profound idea. We're not just talking about some microscopic power plants from a biology textbook. This is the very spot where the outside world, the food you eat, the sun hitting your skin, is literally transformed into the energy that fuels your thoughts, your goals, your entire experience of being alive.
And you know exactly what that feels like, don't you? That nagging fatigue, the brain fog you just can't shake, that feeling like your internal pilot light is just flickering. It is so frustrating, and it's way too common. But it's also a direct signal coming from deep inside your biology that something's got to change.
Yeah, that dimming feeling, it is not just in your head. It's happening on a microscopic scale. A good way to think about it is that your cellular engines are getting all clogged up, almost carbonized. And the whole problem starts with the actual blueprints for those engines.
Okay, so at the very heart of all this is your mitochondrial DNA, or what we call mtDNA. Now, you know the DNA in your cell's nucleus, the main stuff, comes from both of your parents. But mtDNA is special. You get it exclusively from your mother. It's the core operating system for all of your energy production. But, and this is the big catch, it doesn't have the same tough protective coating as your other DNA, which makes it way more vulnerable to getting damaged.
So how exactly does this damage happen? Well, you could really boil it down to three main culprits. First, you've got electrons leaking where they shouldn't. Second, your cell's garbage disposal system starts to fail. And third, there's interference from our modern environment. Let's break that down.
So that first one is basically biological smoke. As your mitochondria are chugging along making energy, little electrons escape. They create these super reactive molecules called ROS. You can think of them like tiny sparks flying off a fire. And those sparks are hitting and damaging those vulnerable mtDNA blueprints we just talked about. Over time, that really degrades your ability to make energy efficiently.
And when all that damage piles up and gets to be too much, your body pulls the emergency brake. It's a process called the cell danger response. Your mitochondria literally decide, hey, it's too dangerous to keep running at full power. So they switch from a thrive mode into a survive mode, and they intentionally power you down to protect the whole system from falling apart.
But here's a thought. What if we've been looking at this whole thing the wrong way? What if the solution isn't just about fixing a broken down engine, but about learning how to communicate with a really intelligent system? This requires a total paradigm shift in our thinking.
You see, the old textbook model taught us that mitochondria are just these passive powerhouses, kind of like a simple furnace that just burns fuel. But the new reality, oh, it's so much cooler. Mitochondria are dynamic, they are quantum communicators. They are constantly sensing everything in your environment and responding to it in real time. So what that really means is they're not just engines. They're more like portals. They're the main interface between the outside world, light, sound, temperature, and your internal biology. They are always listening. Which kind of begs the question, are we sending them the right signals?
And this is where things get really practical and, frankly, exciting. If our cells are constantly listening, then we need to learn their language. And it turns out their language is built on some of the most basic, fundamental signals in all of nature.
Okay, signal number one, and probably the most powerful one, is light. I want you to think of light as the literal remote control for your mitochondria. Certain kinds of light act like a button that you can press to tell your cells, hey, ramp up energy production now. So here's the nuts and bolts of how it works. Inside every mitochondrion, there's an enzyme that's super sensitive to light, specifically red and near-infrared light, the exact kind you find in sunlight. When those light waves hit that enzyme, it's like flooring the gas pedal on ATP production. And that morning sun, that's the best part. It primes the production of melatonin inside the mitochondria itself, which acts as the master antioxidant to clean up all that biological smoke from the day.
All right, now for the next signal. This is one we almost never think about when it comes to cell health. It's not about food, it's not about light, it's about vibration. It turns out that sound can actually physically tune your cellular energy. And there's an incredibly simple way to generate a really powerful signal.
So just look at this number for a second, 15 to 20 times. What on earth could increase a critical biological molecule by that much using something you can do right now for free?
The answer? Humming. Yeah, seriously, just humming. Research from the Karolinski Institute found that the simple act of humming increases the nitric oxide in your nasal passages by 15 to 20 times. And nitric oxide is a massive vasodilator. That just means it opens up your blood vessels to flood your cells with oxygen. And oxygen is the final, crucial ingredient to complete that whole energy-making process.
So we know our cells can receive signals like light and vibration, but what if that communication is a two-way street? This is where things get kind of mind-bending. Your cells don't just listen for light, they actually broadcast it. They create your body's very own inner light-based communication network. I know, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, doesn't it? Can your cells really talk to each other with light? Well, the answer is a definitive yes. For almost a century now, scientists have been studying this phenomenon that suggests our bodies have a kind of light-based internet.
They're called biophotons, and this is a real, measurable, although ultra-weak, light that comes from all living cells, including yours. The leading theory is that this isn't just some random waste product, it's a carrier of information. It's how your cells whisper to each other, coordinating trillions of actions every single second.
And what's really fascinating is that the state of this inner light is a direct reflection of your overall health. When you're in a state of vitality and health, that light emission is coherent, it's structured, it's harmonious. But when you're under stress, that signal becomes chaotic and noisy, like static on a radio, and it messes up all that crucial cell-to-cell communication.
Okay, so we get the problem and we get the new paradigm. So how do we actually put this all together and do something about it? Well, this is the user manual. This is how you reignite your cellular energy, based on the signals your mitochondria were designed to understand from the very beginning.
Let's just walk through this user manual. Pillar 1, light. Getting daily morning sun directly hits those light-sensitive enzymes, priming repair for the whole day. Pillar 2, breath. Just 5 minutes of that nasal humming a day for that 15-20x nitric oxide boost. Pillar 3, exercise. A good mix of steady cardio and some high-intensity work is the most powerful signal you can send to build new, better mitochondria. 4, temperature. Using cold and heat strategically helps your body clean out junk proteins and strengthen the mitochondria you already have. And finally, diet. A simple time-restricted eating window gives your body a chance every day to activate mitophagy. That's the essential cleanup process that recycles old, broken-down zombie cells to make way for new ones.
You know, at the end of the day, this isn't just about feeling less tired. It's about something much bigger. It's about achieving what you could call biological sovereignty. It's about taking direct, conscious control over your own energy systems, perfecting that inner fire, and by doing that, illuminating your own consciousness with so much more clarity and power.
So I'll leave you with this one thought to chew on. Every single moment of every single day, your trillions of cells are listening. They're listening to the world through the portals of your mitochondria. They're listening to the light you see, the air you breathe, the food you eat, even the vibrations you create. So the real question is, what are you telling them?